Many of you and your friends and families have personally suffered at the hands of this regime, and you know firsthand both the horror of what's happened and maybe more importantly the specter of horror that could happen if these issues are not dealt with. The things I want to speak about are of great importance to the United States, of great importance to the people of Iran, and on a personal basis occupied a lot of my time when I was fortunate to serve as the director of the FBI. I was appointed by two presidents, one a Democrat, one a Republican, and many of my colleagues have served in both administrations of Republicans and Democrats. So we're talking about issues that I think transcend politics and transcend partisanship. And what I wanted to do is give you a case study, which is a case which is now almost 10 years old, the Khobar Towers bombing, but which has great relevance to many of the subjects that we've discussed here today. In 1996, when Khobar Towers was attacked, it was attacked by a group of Saudi Hezbollah members. And that was discovered fairly shortly after the events because the host country, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, had detained and arrested several of the actors who said, yes, we were recruited by the IRGC, we were trained in the Bekaa, we got our passports at the Iranian embassy in Damascus, and we got $100,000 cash from General Sharifi. When Khobar Towers occurred, the President of the United States, appropriately so, from the Oval Office, said that this attack against the United States would not go unpunished and no stone would be left unturned to bring the perpetrators to justice. So our charge was to conduct an investigation. Our first note was, do you want us to conduct a criminal investigation because that may interfere with whatever other policy decisions you may or may not make? The answer was no. Conduct the investigation. So we deployed several hundred FBI agents and personnel to Saudi Arabia who conducted crime scene investigations, interviews, in conjunction with the Saudi Mubahith, which is their police force. It became very clear after a short period of time that the perpetrators of the attack were IRGC trained, planned, and funded. The attack only resulted, tragically, in the death of 19 Americans. 372 were wounded. The reason for that fortuity was the truck was placed perpendicular to Building 131, which was the Khobar barracks. Had it been placed in a parallel fashion, the whole building would have come down and several hundred people would have been killed. It became very apparent during the investigation that we needed to get direct access to the defendants, subjects who had been detained by the Saudis, 5 of whom were arrested in the immediate environment of the crime a short time afterwards. So our necessity was to get a very senior, i.e. the President or the Vice President of the United States, to make the request that FBI agents be allowed to conduct the interviews. So for a long period of time, we wrote talking points for the President, for the Vice President. They would meet with the Crown Prince or someone else from Saudi Arabia. And we always got back the response from the Saudis, well, they never made the request. And that became very apparent after a short period of time that that request was not being made. Other requests were being made, but not the one that was really critical for our investigation. And this was the period, as some of my colleagues have noted, where the rapprochement and the new moderate government appeared to be taking place. Government under which, by the way, all of these nuclear reactors were built. So I recall getting a phone call one morning from the Secretary of State, and she said, the Iranians are complaining because your FBI agents are fingerprinting them when they come into the United States. And I said, well, of course, we've been doing that for a long period of time because, as you know, Madam Secretary, the MOIS agents sometimes come in with the wrestling team. It's usually the guy who's a little bit unfit, but he's the MOIS agent, and that's why we fingerprint them. And she said, well, you have to stop because they're very upset. So on and on the investigation went, And we reached the point, after a very difficult period of time, within the administration in the United States, not on the crime scene side, where we got substantial evidence that this attack was committed by the IRGC. And the permission that we finally received by the Saudi government to interview the detainees was really the result of us using channels outside of the government and outside of the administration, because we could not get any assistance within the administration with respect to making the request. And the reason was simple. They did not want to confront the fact and the reality that the Iranian government had murdered